The Fourth Way by P.D. Ouspensky, Chapter 14. Question. You say that man is an experiment? Answer. Man is specially made for evolution. He is a special experiment made for self-development. Every man is an experiment, not all men. Now, we have to return to practical things and the study of personal work. It is necessary to understand responsibility in personal work, because when a man begins to understand something, to formulate certain wishes in connection with the work, his responsibility towards himself increases. The more one understands, the greater one's responsibility, because if one knows nothing and does not attempt to work, one cannot make a serious mistake. But when one begins to work, one can sin against the work, so to speak. And when a man makes mistakes, it can stop his personal work. So, his responsibility begins as soon as he begins to work, and it must be understood that this responsibility is very great, because everything counts. Everything one says or does, everything one does not say or do, everything is counted and put for or against one. It is not an arbitrary action. It is so in the very nature of things. Things themselves make it so. In order to do something, to reach something, it is necessary to work on many lines at the same time. Otherwise, one sticks. If you miss one or two lines, you have to go back and start again from the beginning. You cannot choose which lines to work on. Suppose you have to work on 50 lines, and you discard 3 lines that you do not like, and you work on the other 47. Then, sooner or later, you have to go back and begin again, from the beginning of all 50 lines, because after some time, 47 lines cannot take you any further. I mean by those lines trying to remember yourself, trying not to identify, not to express negative emotions, and so on. Suppose you accept all those lines and leave out only one, about talking. It will spoil everything. Or if you accept them all, at the next moment you forget, you will again get nowhere. That is why we cannot get right results. We start well, and then the next moment we forget. And we say to ourselves, I cannot keep 50 things in my mind at once. Question. How can one increase one's sense of responsibility? Answer. It must be based on valuation. If you value something, then you have a sense of responsibility. Question. You said that another of our chief difficulties is formatory thinking. I do not in the least know how to think, but formatorially. Answer. Think to the best of your ability and compare results. When your thinking gives results and when it does not. In that way, you will come to a better understanding. At any rate, better than just wondering about it. Definitions will not help you. Desire for definitions is only an excuse. If you find yourself in a very difficult position, you will think to the best of your ability how to get out of it. Think in the same way. Question. Before we can think differently, is it necessary to perceive things differently? Answer. We cannot perceive differently until we think differently. We have control only of our thoughts. We have no control over perception. Perception depends particularly on the state of consciousness. If one awakes for sufficiently long, one can perceive many things one does not perceive now. It does not depend on desire or decision. Question. Is all thinking formatory except when we are trying to self-remember? Answer. No. No, not at all, but a great deal of our thinking is formatory. And when we think about serious things, such as ideas of the system, we either cannot think at all of our thinking, let me start that over again. But when we think about serious things, such as the ideas of this system, we either cannot think at all, or our thinking is not formatory. Formatory thinking is always poor, but for some reason it is ridiculous. Question. You said once that thinking about the big ideas of the system can be a way of stopping identification. I cannot see why this is so, and why identification should necessarily stop thinking. Answer. Because identification makes thought narrow and defective. It binds you. You cannot think. You cannot make decisions. It lowers the standard of man's normal intellectual capacity. As to why thinking about the big ideas of the system stops identification, it is because you cannot think about them if you identify with them. Your thinking will produce no effect. When we are studying, trying to understand, this means a new way of thinking. The moment we go back to the old way of thinking, we identify. If I am to know about some particular thing, I must know what it is not. Answer. Not at all. You can know what one or another thing is without making a catalogue of what it is not. It is quite wrong self-accusation. It is quite a wrong self-accusation to say that you have to use such a clumsy method of thinking, because in that way you would have to think for 2 years about every small thing. You can think about things without opposites, just about what they are. Formatory thinking is not thinking. Never forget that formatory thinking can serve many useful purposes, but it is not for thinking. Question. People number one live all their lives with formatory apparatus. Does that mean that they have no growth of being at all from the beginning of their lives? Answer. Not only men number one, but also men number two and number three can live only with formatory apparatus. The great majority of people use nothing else. Certainly they have a certain growth of being, only it is, so to speak, not individual. It is a mass growth in the sense of a child and a grown-up man. But their being does not grow beyond a certain level, and we are interested in growth of being towards man number 4. To grow up in the ordinary way is natural, but this does not change the level of being, and even this natural growth of being can be arrested. Question. I have noticed that if I ask a question, while it's being answered, my mind is working, and as a result, I am not listening. What is this due to? Answer. Quite right. This is simply associative thinking, mechanical thinking. Naturally, if you ask a question, you want to know the answer, you must stop association and take in what is being said. Only then think about it and compare. If you do not stop associations, the answer comes to you mixed with your own thoughts, not exactly what you said, so not exactly what was said, so you never get the right answer. Struggle with associative thinking is a definite line of work. If you study something, listen to something, or are trying to understand something, you have to do it with a free mind. If you go on with your own thoughts at the same time, your mind will never be free to follow. Question. Why is one inclined to ask why rather than how? Answer. Because it's easier, more mechanical. We are more accustomed to it. To ask how needs thinking. You have to formulate your question in the right way, and why can be asked without thinking. Question. It is said that one of the methods of struggling with negative emotions is thinking differently. I don't quite understand what thinking differently means. Answer. It means to take some subject which produces emotion and think about it, trying not to justify yourself or to accuse other people. That will be different thinking, although there are negative emotions that cannot be destroyed in this way, for they need stronger methods. This method must be tried first in every case.